Hi there, pop pickers, and welcome to another edition of The Time Tunnel. And I really have no idea why I just said pop pickers. This is the second vlog in a trilogy as part of our Cumbrian Neolithic Adventure. And today we're starting off at King Arthur's Round Table, clearly a mumbo-jumbo name from the 16th or 17th century. King Arthur's Round Table is one of three henges just to the south of Penrith, and it's late Neolithic, believed to be late Neolithic. And as we explored in the first edition of this series at Long Meg, we are trying to think about what these were used for. And whilst all the experts love to go on about ritual, this is an interesting site because within a couple of 100 metres of one another, we have these three significant henges. Three henges on the low ground next to the river, in the valleys that run between the Lake District and the Pennines. There's something more than ritual going on here. Practically, this is an easier route for the Neolithic people, avoiding all that rugged high ground and avoiding those Beatrix Potter tourists in the season in the Lake District. Looking at it from a practical point of view, my sense is that once again we are looking at a meeting place, a trading centre. They've actually found stone axes from the Langdale Axe Factory in the South Lake District here. Now, it's also a story about destruction. In 1664, when Dugdale came here, he described a number of standing stones and two entrances. Now we just have one entrance at the southeast corner. The northwestern entrance, which is where the stones were, has been wiped out by the B Road. By the time our good friend William Stukeley got here in 1725, the stones had all gone, and that entrance up there, I think, had been destroyed by then. So once again, we are seeing that it's in the modern age, the modern last few centuries, that prehistoric monuments that had survived for thousands of years are just casually wiped out. But sadly, it gets worse than that. If you look behind me, you can see we've got this ditch. In the centre of King Arthur's Round Table Henge, there's this sort of round, sort of dais type of thing, which all looks very appealing. However, in the late 18th, early 19th century, you won't believe what they did. They landscaped this henge to create a tea garden. Excavations in the 20th century have led to much debate and dissent between the experts. In reality, they can't work out what's what. They don't know what's Neolithic and what relates to a 18th century tea garden fantasy. It doesn't become amateur YouTube antiquarians to be too categoric and judgmental in their historical analysis, but and I guess we can understand why this structure back in the 16th or 17th century may have looked like it was King Arthur's, beloved King Arthur's Round Table. But I am going to be categoric on this occasion, and I'm going to tell you that this is not King Arthur's Round Table. And that's where the stones were in 1664 that had gone by the time Stukeley got here in 1725. If you look there, that's where I materialised from the Time Tunnel. The river is just over there, so we can imagine, or I can imagine, Neolithic people sort of getting off of little boats and then coming up here to what must have been a fantastically impressive entrance to this structure, and then sort of entering in here. Were they making money or were they worshipping gods? Who knows? We'll do a really sophisticated zoom in there, and you can see this gatehouse, and then you can see this hedge line there. That's where we're off to next, the Little Round Table. And if you think that was bad, it's nothing in comparison to what's happened to the Little Round Table. Unfortunately, the third of the Penrith Henges has been obliterated since the 1700s, when it was recorded as still being visible. there's possibly the faintest of traces of it over here. Now, I've picked the wrong time of year to come down the time tunnel to find the little round table, because as you can see, we've got a stinging nettle fest. But I have seen the Megalithic Tours people on YouTube talking about the embankment here, a low embankment here being visible. Fortunately, our third henge has done a lot better, and there's a lot to see there. It has faced some threats, but there is something left, unlike the little round table. So without further ado, let's go and take a look to it. Poor old King Arthur's round table has been somewhat compromised by 18th or 19th century tea garden follies, and the little round table has gone, pretty much gone, as a result of Victorian Gothic follies. Mayburgh Henge behind me, I am pleased to say, has fared better, although I put up some sort of overlay to show you how close it came to destruction when they built the M6. Let's go and take a look to it. I'd better put the time bangle back on in case it drops out of my pocket and gets lost and I'd be trapped here forever. Now, before we go into Mayburgh Henge, you'll notice on the outside there is no ditch, and that's one of a number of really interesting features about this place. As we walk round the outside of the henge, I want you to pay attention, use your YouTube attention spans to the full. You'll notice that we have got this cobbling, these cobbles everywhere in this henge, and I'm not going to tell you now. You're going to have to stay tuned to find out what that's all about. And here we are at the entrance of Mayburgh Henge. It's quite impressive. It's the only entrance, another unusual feature here. And I don't know if you can see behind me there what's in the middle. As we come in, note once again all this sort of cobbling, all these stones in the embankment. As you enter the henge here at Mayburgh, there really is a sense of enclosure, unlike that I've experienced at any other Neolithic site. It has a very, very peculiar atmosphere. And just to clarify, when I talk about peculiar atmospheres, I'm not going into mumbo jumbo territory. It just has a very historic atmosphere to it. And a real treat for us here, guys. Mayburgh Henge has a standing stone, and a very splendid one it is too. And if I consult with my little red book, unfortunately there is a bit of bad news. In 1769, Thomas Pennant did a plan that showed 4 stones in the centre and then 4 over there at the entrance. But then a few years later, in 1773, a Robert Hutchinson refers to the fact that 2 stones had been removed in living memory. And another report that I read when researching this site as I travelled down the time tunnel refers to the fact that the stones were removed, this is in the 1700s, the stones were removed because they were considered to be poisoning the ground. So mumbo jumbo was rife in the 18th century. One of the things I love about the standing stone here is all these stones around the base. We obviously can't know for sure whether they date to its construction, but I bet they do. It really is very hot. I hope there's air conditioning in the time tunnel. I haven't found out about that yet. And I've also got hay fever as well, so don't know how that's going to go down with the old time travel. But I want to put your minds at rest about the question I posed earlier with regard to the cobbles. So if you come up here with me, they are stones from the riverbed of the nearby River Lowther. And the experts estimate that there's 20,000 tonnes of these river stones making up the embankment. The whole thing is built out of these stones. It's not earth. So yet another unique feature here at this very special place. The entrance to Mayburgh Henge faces due east, so that gets the sunrise in the equinox, and then due west opposite that entrance, we are looking at Blencathra again for the sunset, as we saw at Longmeg and her daughters. I mentioned when we was at King Arthur's Round Table, that mumbo jumbo name for it, we don't have another name, that they had found stone axes from the Langdale Ice Factory, if that's the right way to describe Neolithic activity. Well, they've found them here as well. In reality, the King Arthur's Round Table is just there. If you follow my finger, it's there about 400 metres away. Well, I've very much enjoyed this visit to these three henges. They are all within a couple of 100 metres of one another, so clearly linked. They are Neolithic, very different. This one in particular with the cobble bank and no ditch. What were they about? Well, we don't know, but there may have been some ritual aspects, there probably were, but I think there was something much more practical going on here. Perhaps each henge sort of specialised in a different product, a bit like a modern shopping mall, as the Americans are wont to say. Interesting little array of stones there. Obviously they may have just been moved there over the millennium. Possibly this is one of the locations of the now missing standing stones. Can you hear something? Oh no, not again! Time bangle. Where's the time bangle? I really think this might be the end.
Humanoid must not escape.
If I could just reverse the polarity of the neutron flow. It's Artron energy, it's out of Artron energy. Where can you get Artron energy in a Neolithic henge? The stone! This better work. Thanks be to subscription, there's such bad shots. Right, this is my last chance. Until next week.
Not escape.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed that. So that was the second vlog in a trilogy of Cumbrian Neolithic Adventures. I'll put a link to the first one there, so if you missed that, you can catch up on it. And then later on, when I've got round to it, if I survive these alien attacks, then the third and final one will be up there. Thanks for watching.